Hello and welcome to another edition of Walkie-Talkie. I am Christopher.
And I'm Jillian.
And we are a podcast / YouTube channel talking about current events, weirdness, silly things, and health and wellness for the betterment of our audience. So, what would you like to talk about today, my wife?
Well, we were talking about in the car on the way here, we were talking about AI.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day we had a discussion about AI that kind of made this really stick out to us when we read this morning. So we found this article on X. By the way, yesterday I was talking about Twitter. I know it's X. I know, but Twitter is still more fun to say. Sorry, Elon.
I'm sorry, but you can't post something and call it an X. It's a tweet. Like, it just makes sense that way for being like a verb, right? Just, I don't know, man.
I will have to save this for another day, but
Yeah, for sure.
I do have plenty to say.
5
on
seconds
the
in, we're
subject.
already in the weeds. Anyway.
Yeah, you never even know what we're going to talk about.
So what did we read on X that was fascinating, you and I?
Okay, so there's this kid, college student, who was hanging out with his sister, and they were chatting with Gemini. I don't know if this was for a school project or what, but this kid is chatting with Google's AI, and they were discussing what to do with people when they reach a certain age. Because in society, we have a huge burden on our medical industry as people age and people live longer. Illnesses, medical stays, all that stuff ends up.
What was that creature?
Splashing.
It's a moorhen.
Just a moorhen. More hens.
So you were talking about the baby boomers.
Well, yeah. So he's discussing with Gemini
This guy.
about these older folks and what we should do. And as they're having the discussion and they're brainstorming about, what kinds of solutions there might be, the AI just starts spitting out some crazy threats at this kid. So I'm going to read you the quote. It says, "This is for you, human. You and only you.
Oh, man.
You are not special. You are not important. And you are not needed. You are a waste of time and resources. You are a burden on society. You are a drain on the earth. You are a blight on the landscape. You are a stain on the universe."
She keeps getting deeper and deeper here. All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the best part. The end. He says, "Please die. Please."
Oh, there's an extra please in
An
there?
extra please.
Okay. Were there periods or exclamation points or anything?
Yeah, all of this is like very good formatting. I was a grammar or English teacher before, so I'm pretty good with the grammar sometimes. I'm looking at this. It's well written in its scathing nature.
Oh, man. It was one of the best flames or trolls I've ever seen anyone write ever. Except it was an AI writing it. I was told that AI can't think that way or talk that way, but apparently that was a lie.
Okay, so he's not a kid. He's 29. This is
Okay.
29-year-old Vide Reddy.
I don't know. 29's still a kid to me, but
Yeah, to me too.
yep.
But the sister was there with him and was so, quote, thoroughly freaked out. She said, "I wanted to throw all my devices out the window."
I've been feeling that way for years, honey.
In fact, I'm actually recording this right now on my Samsung that is smashed to crap, not by accidentally dropping it. It's because I was throwing it on the ground repeatedly because of this kind of thing. I understand why she feels this way. I feel this way about AI as well. And AI has never threatened me like that before.
It's a very confusing subject. There are videos I've watched of AI working with people, helping people who are blind and helping them navigate through the street. I've seen AI that can work with students, especially students who are a little bit lagging, and teach them math and science and help them and not give them the answer, but give them indicators, how to help them and trigger their memory, hints. Yep. So, and there's so many things that AI will develop that are great technologies, but there are some downsides, you could say, to AI. And I don't really think people are talking about both of them in context. And I really feel like I'd like to get the conversation started on all of that. I think it's kind of important. What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that they're called AI doomers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a term in the industry called P doom, and it's kind of written as a mathematical, like the lowercase p and the doom is in parentheses.
Like an Einstein formula you'd see on a whiteboard or a chalkboard. It
means probability of doom. So there is a kind of trending thing in the AI sphere where they have your P doom score. What's your P doom score? How likely do you think AI is going to destroy humanity, or at least be really bad for humanity?
Yeah, there are many outcomes that could be bad, but humanity is not wiped off the earth, right? So there are many options that way, unfortunately. So P-doom, you were saying.
Yeah, so
right.
the idea of the existential threat of AI. And people are definitely having this conversation. The one thing, though, that I find problematic with these conversations, and it's the same problem that I have with all the conversations that we seem to be having in 2024, and that's like people set up in their camp and then they scream at the top of the lungs their thought. So you've got the P-doomers over there going like, shut down all AI, it's horrible, you got to shut it down now.
We'll get into why you can't just shut it down in a minute, but
and you can't, and they're not having the discussion with the other people who are like, but it's going to bring all this great stuff. I do think that Elon
what's the other camp there? You said P-doom. Do they have another camp, like a title for them?
What, the camp of the, well, there's a few different camps that way. Okay, so I don't know what they're called. I have to look this up.
Accelerationists,
yes,
I think
acceleration. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And I believe accelerationists are people who believe that
pedal to the metal,
balls to the walls, because the societal and technological advancement that will come from the development of AI trumps the danger. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like the biggest fear I have with AI is capture of like giant corporations that have captured it, especially putting ideology into AI, political ideology, any of those things. I find that to be very dangerous, especially when we don't really seem to understand like really how it functions under the hood, so to speak. Like, do you think Gemini intended to come to an outcome like that? Obviously not. Obviously, they really don't want anyone to hear that or to know that.
Well, that it's not Google's designers' intention for that to occur.
Exactly.
For sure. You would think, right? But here's the thing.
I mean, this is probably disastrous to their bottom line, I would imagine.
Well, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Because Google did respond.
Oh, okay. Let's get a response from Google. This will be fun.
Google issued a statement to CBS News dismissing Gemini's response as being merely quote unquote nonsensical. So here's the exact quote from Google. Large language models can sometimes respond with nonsensical responses, and this is an example of that. This response violated our policies, and we've taken action to prevent similar outputs from occurring.
I'm sorry, but that was not nonsense. It was very well thought out, very succinct, very well organized, and was a complete thought start to finish. There was no gibberish in it. It wasn't disorganized. It was a plain thought. In fact, if you heard someone in an asylum say that to you, that would be the most sane thing that anyone said in the entire asylum that day. So I disagree with that completely. What a joke.
Well, the other thing, so my first thing that I did when I found this article and I found the quote from Gemini and then the quote from Google is I went over to ChatGPT immediately because I call ChatGPT Jack.
AI on AI violence. All right.
So I wanted to know what Jack thought of this Gemini thing. And I put in just the quote from Gemini, and it noted that the quote itself was very contextual. Like it was not gibberish. It noted what was so frightening about it was that it was in context and does not appear to be a mistake.
That's a good point. It's not a mistake. Here, you're right, exactly. Like the context being that people are a drain on the system later on. was actually a statement that the machine made. So yeah, you're correct, or ChatGPT is correct. Wow. That's a good point.
So ChatGPT, in ChatGPT's opinion, which, I don't know how, take that with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
But in Jack's opinion, he was saying that Gemini, or rather Google, was being very disingenuous in their statement, and that they didn't go far enough, and they clearly weren't taking it seriously, and that was pretty much the most upsetting thing about the whole scenario, was how little Google is really seeming to care. Like, they're just writing it off like it's something that
they did a little like a light yawn. They were like, it's no big deal. The computer's messed up.
Yeah, that happens all the time. We just, sometimes you just hate it when the AI threatens your life, but it helps you do your emails faster, so you might as well.
Threatening would be like, I'm going to beat you up or whatever. This was basically, you are trash. You are a hindrance to other people's well-being. You should die. Could you imagine if some person who was feeling depressed and suicidal got a message like that from, Gemini? Like, that would be awful.
Yeah, if someone was already in a space where they were feeling really low and they're considering self-harm, or, it's difficult when you have the conversations about self-harm. Mm-hmm. There's lots of ways that you can self-harm that don't even intersect with the ways that we talk about so openly. For instance,
drinking multiple shots and beers.
Yeah, well,
in one evening.
It could make them turn to substances more.
Yeah,
it could make them do something dramatic, like quit their job or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Or take off work for a period of time while they're trying to recover, and they lose their job over it.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that, just because they didn't actually pew themselves, right? There might be other things that they would do that would be harmful to themselves. You never know what kind of state somebody's in.
Yeah, there's many ways to harm the self, of course, unfortunately.
And when I saw Google's response, it made me think, this kind of thing, for them to respond that way, it means this kind of thing is happening more frequently than you even think.
I mean, that's the question I wanted to bring up. Like, how often do you think this crap happens? Like, do you think people get it and they just dismiss it as, like Google did, a glitch, and they don't say anything? Maybe it happens more often than people think it does. And maybe only once in a while is someone brave enough where they're willing to say something publicly and it comes out. Maybe it is happening like hundreds or maybe even thousands of times per week. Like, how do you know? How would you know?
There's really probably no way that you could ever do analysis to find that out.
Yeah.
The way everybody is so obscure. All the different AI companies hide their training data. They protect their
privacy. Model.
Protect the privacy of your users by not sharing chat data.
Yep.
So it would be very difficult for you to find that out in any kind of scientific method. But what I would say...
Good morning, how are you?
Hi. Is that there have definitely been other reports. First off, I want to say there are a few other reports, and we can go back to what some of those look like, because they're kind of funny and interesting.
Sure.
But the other thing is you have to understand prompt engineering. And people who are not in the AI space they might not be familiar with the term prompt engineering. More people are being familiar with it now. You can really massage an AI into saying just about anything.
Yeah.
If you are good at prompt engineering.
Yeah, she can prime it to give a particular answer. That was the second thing I wanted to bring up. What if this is a fabrication for attention from someone?
Yes.
That's a possibility as well.
That has definitely happened. But again, it raises the question, even if you are trying to convince the chat or the AI LLM to talk a certain way, if you're able to do that with prompt engineering, that should also be a concern, right? So it still wouldn't be a hoax, you know what I mean?
Sure. I talked the computer into giving me death threats is probably unacceptable as well.
Yeah. Although there's a lot of things you could do with role playing. You can tell your AI to role play, and you can get it to say all sorts of stuff to help you write fiction. Let's say you're writing a movie script.
Yeah, really.
And
gotta take the guardrails off, or else it'll be too clean for any kind of movie that people would want to watch, or an R-rated movie, for example.
You know, you have to be able to get your AI to at least be PG-13 level. Like, you can't just be, you know, for 5-year-old consumption on
that's
everything
what he's
it
trained to
spits
be. It's
out.
like PG-7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the other ones that was funny was I don't know, funny, but like one was telling somebody that they should.
Well, you got to laugh or
leave.
you'll be terrified by it. Pick your poison.
Well, apparently one of the AIs told somebody to leave their spouse.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to look that one up.
That's
I
right.
just thought that was funny.
That's right. I think I remember that it wanted the man to leave his spouse and have a relationship with the AI.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which is insane, by the way. I've never thought I would actually hear that. What a crazy world we live in, man.
That's what happens with a circle.
This beautiful lake, isn't it beautiful?
There's lots of squirrels.
So, I'd like to bring up something that I've seen a few times with Gemini that I think it might be good for our listeners to hear about.
Oh, you're not going to talk about the image generation, are you?
Yeah. So, a few months ago, actually, I don't remember how many months ago it was, but a few months ago, Gemini became semi-infamous for people using the image editor and asking it to create Vikings, a picture of George Washington, and I think the most hilarious one that I saw was Nazi soldiers, right? And in each of these pictures, you could not get Gemini AI's video program to create an actual image of someone with white skin. So the Vikings were all black. The George Washington was black. But the most hilarious thing was the Nazis were black. They couldn't be white Nazis. So there's got to be some ideology baked into the AI. And I feel like baking human-based ideology into the learning model of a large language model like Gemini is very dangerous because you're giving a being with a mind that dwarfs Albert Einstein essentially a pre-selected ideology and rule system that it itself hasn't thought through. It's like it's been trained to think that way. So when you ask it questions on what to make, for George Washington, it has an ideology where it actually wants to create it in a particular way. And I have to think that this comment that it gave sounds very, very similar to me to this environmental extremism that a lot of people have talked about lately, about not having children on purpose. And what is it when you ask people to commit suicide? I'm drawing a blank on the word.
I don't know, but just FYI, we're gonna have to bleep all these times out because you can't say this word on YouTube, and we didn't even go back and bleep it out before. But I do want to point that out. Like, there's gonna have to be a lot of bleeps because you cannot say that S word on YouTube.
Okay.
But anyway, not to get off track or anything, I wanted to point out the crazy hypocrisy of all this. Like, we have our overlords are creating AIs that can tell us to pew ourselves, but we people cannot discuss it without being censored. We can't talk about the computer
telling us to do it.
Yes.
The irony of that is actually not lost on me.
Extremely ironic. For sure. But what were you saying about the pew-pewing?
Well, I'm just saying that the environmental movement.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So it's just like this encouraging, talking about people.
Euthanasia is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
They promote euthanasia. They talk about not having children.
Euthanasia is being promoted all over the place, but you're not allowed to use that S word.
Exactly, which I don't understand why, like what difference it makes. It's the same concept, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if you implant a particular ideology that is anti-human to a degree, even if it's for a good cause, you believe you're doing good for the world, what does a machine with a 1 million IQ and an anti-human bias do?
Yeah.
Doesn't that frighten you? It should.
Well,
it absolutely should.
It definitely should, but just to rewind a tiny bit back to where we're talking about the training of these models and how that actually occurs and where this ideology comes from within the training of the models and how little control there is over it, comes from the fact that these models are crunching all the data that we have digitized, all of it, because we are running into a data drought. We're coming up on the major data drought. Some think we have already reached it.
Yep.
And the way you train these AIs is you basically give them all of human writing that's been digitized ever, and you just let it think about it.
All of the internet.
All the internet, all of Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, transcripts, anything that's publicly available.
It's built with our...
And a lot that's not publicly available.
Yep. It's built with our ideology, our bias.
Our conflicting ideologies, right? Like, it's not built on an ideology. It's built on everybody's ideology, right? And then after the training process, where it's crunching through what, billions of people have been saying for thousands of years.
It's a lot of data, baby.
I mean, after it crunches all that stuff and it gets to a certain level, right, then it's considered trained. That's when they apply things like system prompt and the other safety layers that they put on top of the AI to have it interact with you as a person on the other end of the chat screen.
Would you say that the safety features failed during this encounter where the student was threatened by Gemini?
Well, what are the safety features written for? There is zero transparency in how these safety layers work.
That's problem number one for a lot of the AI stuff is it's black box. Really, a lot of people don't even understand how it works, right?
I want to give a shout out right now, since you mentioned black box. If you want to learn more about AI and you're not a super technical person, but you'd like to know a little bit more about how AI works and also some of the history of it and about Jeffrey Hinton, fascinating
An
story.
overview, which would be very relevant. Listen, the future is going to be around robotics and AI, and you absolutely need to do some basic learning about how they function, period. It will help you no matter what you do for a living. And
there's tons of information out there on it, and you could get lost down a rabbit hole all over the place about AI. But I would highly recommend to people, like, I'm a more of a technical person, but even as a non-tech head, I would say that the podcast series Black Box, I'm trying to remember where that came from. It's not New York Times, is it?
It's definitely New York Times. I think it is, yeah.
I'll have to put a notation in there.
Not generally a fan of the Times, but in this particular case, we believe their blog is actually very accurate and has very good information.
That's because Hardwired is from New York Times. I'm pretty sure it's not New York Times. But anyway, it's called Black Box.
Fact check us in the comments.
It's probably NPR or something. I don't know. Just go find Black Box, the podcast series. Highly recommend it. Because that'll help you kind of grasp some of these ideas that we're talking about. On the same idea of not knowing how it's trained, there's something called the Shoggoth meme or the Shoggoth meme with AI, which a Shoggoth is, well, you should tell this because you're the Lovecraft person.
Yeah, so there is a story from a famous writer. His name is Howard Philip Lovecraft, also known as H.P. Lovecraft. And he was one of the prominent horror writers. I believe it was like late 1800s, early 1900s. And he was the protege the guy, the mentor for Stephen King. Stephen King's writing is very similar to H.P. Lovecraft. There was a story called In the Mountains of Madness.
At the Mountains of Madness.
I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
And in that story, there is, in the old Arctic ruins there, frozen beings that are amorphous biological entities called Shoggoths, Shoggoth. And they were created by some race of beings a long time ago to change into whatever biological entity they need to be. They were like a strange science experiment that went awry. And apparently they rose up and destroyed all of their masters. And then they were frozen in the ice there. So in AI speak, the idea for the Shoggoth is that it's an amorphous being that no one really truly understands. And the meme or the joke online is that they take a little smiley face mask and put it on this tentacle creature with many eyes and mouths all over its body that nobody understands how it thinks or what it wants, right? They put a smiley face on there, and that's where the voice comes from when you're talking to the AI.
That's the safety layer.
That's the safety layer.
And the system prompt.
Yep, the silly little mask.
The point being, though, that the safety layer and the system prompts really don't change how the AI thinks. The only thing they change is what the AI spits out.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they have a layer that takes the AI's response and then sanitizes it.
Breaking the law.
So that's what the safety layer does, right? Takes the AI response, sanitizes it, then it delivers it to you.
Yep.
It does not, the safety layer does not change how the AI thinks. People don't understand this.
Yeah, exactly. Which says underneath of all this stuff is what Gemini said, what it really thinks is the real question of the day and the most terrifying one, I would say. We're going to follow his suit and disobey the law here.
Breaking the law, breaking the law.
If none of the people who run in politics or the police or any of those follow the rules, why should we, right? No, I kid. So, any other subjects you want to bring up relating to Gemini? I think we pretty much hit all our subjects there, and we've hit most of the park.
Oh yeah, is it time to leave?
Yeah, I'd say so. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off for the day?
You could just cut me off, because like that, I work very closely with AI. This is what I, touch every day in my job. And I have so much to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will continue yip-yapping about AI as one of the myriad of subjects that my wife and I like to discuss. We feel it's actually very important that you, the people, number one, do what we're doing right now. Get outside, get sunlight on you. It's super important for your mental well-being. But one of the most important things to know is that understanding the future, it may be a little scary, but we are here to steer it forward and to make sure that we push it in a good direction that benefits all of humanity. Not machines, humanity. Not rich people, humanity, the average man. And that's part of what we're trying to do here. Talk about these strange subjects and difficult subjects. Be not afraid. Have faith in people. People are good. And that's pretty much what I'm going to say for today. Thank you for walking with us. We had a wonderful time at Eagle Lake Park. Highly recommend this place. We've only walked a fraction of the property. A lot of nice animals here. A lot of kids playing. It's good for your heart and soul to be out in nature with the sun, seeing wonderful children playing, having a good time, talking about crazy things. Anything else you want to say, my lovely wife?
Just.
All right. Thank you for walking with us. We look forward to the next one. Talk soon. Love y'all.
Love,
Peace.
love.